ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। दिवि भूमौ तथाकाशे बहिरन्तश्च मे विभुः यो विभात्यवभासात्मा तस्मै सर्वात्मने नमः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Before going to Yoga Vasistha, today's topic, connected idea that comes from the Bhagavad Gita, let us try to recollect that. There is one shloka which is very prominent and very often quoted shloka in Bhagavad Gita, that is Apichedapi papebhya sarvebhya papakrutabah sarvam gnanaplavenaiva vrajinam santarishyasi. The meaning of that is papebhya sarvebhya papakrutamah. That means a papa that you do of the greatest of the sins, of all the sins that you do it, apichedapi papebhya sarvebhya papakrutamah. All that sin, sarvam gnanaplavenaiva. That means to say, by the plank of or the boat of knowledge, you can cross that. It's a very vrijinam santarishyasi. Santarishyasi. That means to say, you can cross the ocean of samsara, we can cross the river, or we can go to the other side. So, the whole concept is, now we know that very well that jnana, plank of jnana, that you can cross the papa of the highest order, that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. But we know very well that jnana has nothing to do with the sin. Jnana has something to do with the Ajnana. Sin we call it as papa. Ajnana we put in English as ignorance, but I don't want to call it as ignorance. I would say lack of knowledge. Because the simple idea is that a verb comes out of ignorance is he ignores. I mean, actually, these two are not connected in that sense. Lack of knowledge does not mean that you ignore the thing. In fact, many times people who think that they have the knowledge, they ignore. The stupid people, they ignore. But anyway, we don't have a better word in English, that's why we call it as ignorance. But then what he says is that we know that knowledge and ignorance, they are interrelated. We use for the time being ignorance only. And then with the help of knowledge, you cut the ignorance. It has nothing to do with the sin. So here when he says that with the jnana that you cross, that means basically, originally there is only ignorance. There is nothing like sin at all. That's why Swami Vivekananda calls, there is nothing like a sin. It's all ignorance. That's why he says, it's a sin to call a man sinner. But the moment that you have the knowledge, you don't do that. Therefore, it is supposed to be like ignorance. So therefore, and another important aspect of ignorance is lack of knowledge is nothing wrong about it. In fact, every child is born without any knowledge. And it is like not having the knowledge is datum zero. And datum zero can be in various different aspects of it. Like for example, there is nothing like wrong about it. In the beginning, child does not know anything. But over a period of time, child knows few things. But then there are a lot of things which are basically we don't know. However much that you know, that we don't know so much more. In fact, we know by knowing so much that we know that so much more what we really do not know. So therefore that lack of knowledge is something which is very glaring, evident in front of us. But And another important is that whatever the knowledge that we seek, more and more that we go into trying to seeking the knowledge, it narrows down our approach towards the knowledge. That means to say, there is a lot other things that we leave behind and then choose something and go ahead. That's what happened in the medical field. There was an earlier that there were medical doctors who were supposed to be the doctors for the whole body. Maybe before that, not only for the human being, but animals also, the same kind of a doctor was there. But then it is narrowed down to human doctor and the vegetarian doctor, animal doctor. But even the human doctor also slowly, that more and more that the knowledge we started gaining, narrower and narrower it has become. So now we have doctors for the ear, doctors for the eyes, doctors for the throat, doctors for our teeth. So like that, now it has narrowed down. And we see that further also how much it narrowed down. I don't have to say that. You go to the market, you can see that. Now once you narrow down that there is one area that you know about, but then there is so lot more area, so much other area, you really do not know. Even if you know that the knowledge of that, the lot more area is so superficial, because even those areas also the knowledge has gone so deep into it. That's why thinking that a person should know everything is not possible. Ignorance will always be there, and therefore that ignorance itself is not bad. It's a datum zero, and you choose some area and then you go ahead. The choice is ours. What kind of knowledge that we gain is something, it's our own. Somebody has a knowledge about all the cricket statistics, somebody has all the knowledge of the political statistics, somebody has a knowledge of something else, that may be different. Let's not worry about it, what knowledge that you have. But that knowledge only takes away the ignorance. Therefore, but then Krishna here connects it with pape biha. That means to say the sins. Therefore, actually together that papa does not mean actually sin. It is nothing but ignorance. It can be understood that way because we are doing something which is wrong because that we don't know what is right. It is ignorance because of which that we do something wrong. It is like the way that you are going in a direction on the highway, thinking that the destination in that direction, and a length of travel that you do it, maybe you miss a couple of boards which show which direction that you are going. You traveled. That means to say basically that you have gone far away from your own supposed to be destination. Your time is lost, your gas is lost, and then you have covered unnecessarily a long distance. But suddenly you realize that that is not the direction, you have to go in the opposite direction. So this going away from your destination is supposed to be what is called as ignorance. And then what you need to do, take a U-turn. The moment that you know, take a U-turn and come back. So the moment that you have the knowledge, then you take a U-turn and come back. You see, in the medical field, how many times that we have done that? That means to say that so many areas we did not know. Mankind was pursuing something and suddenly we say that that's not the way because that's supposed to be causing injury for us. So people gave it up. There was a time when people thought that smoking was okay. So they were smoking. There was no taboo about that smoking, but then suddenly we came to know that smoking is bad for health. So slowly, the people who smoke reduced. But there are still people who smoke, which means basically that their knowledge has not become application. They do not know it sufficient enough with so much of power that they could give up that smoking. So they still hold on to the smoking. They think that ultimately that is better than not smoking, whatever may be the ignorance that they have. Moment that they have a knowledge, then they will give up. Many times people have some heart attack, some heart problem, issue, something like that, connected with that smoke or the lungs problem. And that knowledge is something which is very profound, therefore that they give up. They have to go through something like that. So this is how basically the knowledge can be. It can come to you by simply suggesting, but the knowledge can also be coming not by suggesting, but you have to be somebody has to beat you. By beating, in the form of some sickness or something like that, you reverse it. It destroys the whole relationship, therefore, that you change the ignorance to knowledge, you take up that, you consciously work on that. So, therefore, knowledge brings us together. That is why Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, Sarvam Jnana Plavenaiva Vrijinam Santarishyasi. Now, there is another very important idea that Krishna gives in this is that whatever may be the depth of water that is there, it does not matter. Once you have the boat, you can cross the river. The river may be shallow, like 10, 20 feet deep, or maybe the river is like 100, 200 feet deep. It doesn't matter that you just still cross with the help of boat. Like the way people cross the ocean, the depth is so much that you cannot even fathom it. This analogy is very useful to understand that your ignorance may be for such a long time. However long that ignorance may be, but the moment that once a stroke of knowledge is there, then you will come out of it. So it will help you to come out of it. Therefore, the jnana plavenaiva, that means to say that you have one stroke of knowledge, then you can come out of it. How long it may be there. A similar example is also given about the knowledge. He said that however long the darkness may be in the room, you bring in the light, darkness goes away. And there is no way that you can fight with the darkness, because darkness is nothing but absence of light. That's what is the darkness. It's not substantiate. It's not substantial. It is something which is absence of light. But the moment you can come out of it, bring in the light, automatically it becomes brightened. No, this darkness has been there for years together, therefore I have to bring in the light and then wait for years together so that it can recover. It doesn't have to be like that. It can immediately recover. So that analogy is that the depth of water is immaterial as much as the depth of how long that this particular ignorance has been there. Knowledge comes, then you try to, you will immediately take a U-turn and then you go in the right direction. This is what is the idea of Sarvam Jnana Plavenaiva. And then another important aspect is that there Krishna is very clear, very strong about this idea that it is the knowledge alone will take you out of the ignorance. See, nothing else can take you out of ignorance. You try to force yourself, you try to discipline yourself, you try to do all kinds of things. Ultimately, what has to happen is that the conviction has to come from within. And where that conviction comes from? It comes from the knowledge. Therefore, there also Krishna says that all this Bhagavad Gita I am giving you, because basically I am giving you the knowledge. This knowledge will take you away from the ignorance and will put you in the right direction. So therefore, there he strongly suggests about the jnana, about the knowledge. Now there are two types of knowledge that are there. One is the knowledge about the world outside, and the other is the knowledge about within. And this is what we have: para knowledge and apara knowledge. Apara knowledge is that the knowledge that you gain with the help of your sensory organs, whereas para is something which is beyond, which is not with sensory organs. Often people think para means somewhere above, and it's about God, about Brahman, about all that. No. The very simple thing is that within us itself that we have a knowledge where we do not use the senses. And that's what is basically that knowing about the self. The self is something which is projecting through the senses into the world outside, getting all the knowledge. But we are behind the self. It's like the way the photographer behind the camera. So know about the photographer, know about the self. And that self is not with the help of any sensory organ. And that is a type of knowledge which he says para. Para means what? Beyond the senses. You look into yourself, Atma Pariksha. This is what is Brahma Pariksha also. Now, this idea that knowledge alone is something which will take you across is very important, because many times what happens is that even those people who have done so many other parts of sadhana and all that, and reached the peace, shanti within, and understood the bliss aspect of it. Or if once they have all those things, but many times what happens is when somebody with the knowledge, somebody with argumentation comes in front of them and start arguing, then you start feeling weak. You start feeling that my God, I don't know anything. The others seem to have known. So there is a kind of hesitation that comes into the picture. That's one of the reasons why jnana has to come. But however, there is a also education that any particular sadhana that you take, ultimately it take you to the jnana sadhana, ultimately it take you to the sadhana of surrender. You just dissolve yourself. But then that has to happen. The jnana has to happen. That is what in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says to Arjuna. And the same thing in this particular chapter, uh, in the ninth sutra, that is the Yoga Vasistha, essence of Yoga Vasistha, he says, Tato vachmi mahabaho yata jnanetara gatihi nastya samsara tarne pashabandhasya chetana. Hey Rama, he says that pashabandhasya, that means to say the bandhanas, the clutches of all these world that is there, which are belonging to the world outside, and which are all there in the chitta and the mind. Therefore, jnanetaragatihi nasti samsara tarane pashabandhasya chetana. Chetana is tied by the pashabandha. That means to say all these bondages that are there of the world on this chetana, and at once we have to cross samsara tarane, this world that you have to cross. Jnanetaragatihi, that means yatha jnanetaragatihi, there is nothing which can be other than jnana which can take you across. That means jnana is very important. So therefore, he now gives the idea of in what way jnana is going to give us this freedom from the bandhana or the tightness that is there. So I give you these shlokas which are coming from the Brihat Yoga Vasistha, because that essence of Yoga Vasistha does not carry some of the shlokas which I thought that they are very important. So, देहे दुःखाति संक्षुब्धे कानः क्षत्रुपस्थित रथे विदुरिते भग्ने सारथे केन खंडना. So, dehe dukkhat sanshubdhe. That means to say, body goes through all these sufferings that are there, sanshubdha, and ka nakshatirupasthita. Then, whatever that is there, chidatma that is there, chita, the self that is there within, or you are there within, how can that touch? Like the way rathe vidurite bhagne, like the way that the chariot has been damaged. When the chariot is damaged, sarathe keva khandana. What is the wrong about the Sarathi? What will happen to Sarathi? He can jump out of the Ratha, he can carry another Ratha. This Ratha means chariot. So this analogy that he has given is very often used as this body is supposed to be the Ratha, and then one who is behind this is supposed to be Rathi, one who is using this chariot. So you are the one who is using this chariot called as the body. And this chariot has to drop one day or the other. It goes through all kinds of repairs, all kinds of adjustments and all that. All those things let it happen. But the Sarathi is somebody, the charioteer inside is somebody who is safe. So, manasi kshubdatam yate chittasyanga kimagatam taranga jalasantane vaiparityam kimutyate. This is one example that the sharira, we have this idea of sharira and shariri. Sharira is the body, and then shariri is one behind it. We have in English very beautiful word. Sharira is supposed to be the body, and then shariri is one who is embodied. This body is like something which is kavacha on top of you, and you are there behind that. So this is beautiful word called as body. It comes from embodied. That means you are not body. Very clearly that the body is something which is an outer cover of you. You are embodied. You are embalmed of this. So that you is not covered, is not damaged by that. It's a very simple experience also. Like for example, in some accident or the other that your little finger gets cut or another finger or the hand gets cut. Yes, it gives me pain, it gives all kinds of suffering, but you still continue to be there. Once that heals, once that heals and then it becomes normal, then you are there behind it and you are completely there. There is nothing like you don't have. Your being has been curtained because of that something that happens. You are completely there. And that completeness of yours is the same as completeness of anybody else. Manasi kshabdatam yate chittasyanga kimagatam taranga jalasangva santane vaiparityam kimambude. Hey Rama, it gives another very beautiful idea because basically that this mind and the thoughts and the mind comes like the waves. Tarangaita apime. That means like the way that the waves come on the ocean, thoughts are coming again and again. This is what often people complain about it. The waves are the thoughts that are coming. And then this is what is the idea that Rama Vasistha uses here. And all right, that manasik shubdatam yate, like the way mind is, mind is agitated. Mind is agitated, let the mind be there. But yate chittasyanga kimagatam, deeper inside that you are consciousness that is there. What has happened to it? Nothing happened to the consciousness. All these waves are coming on the top of consciousness, but then in spite of it, nothing will happen to the consciousness. Why are you worried about these waves that are coming? Taranga jala santane vaiparityam kimambude. That means to say, let the waves come. In fact, particularly during the full moon time, big waves come, tsunami comes, it's a huge wave that comes. When all these things come, what will happen to the ocean behind? There is nothing will happen. With an idea that ocean is so big, ocean is identified with the whole spread across the globe. And then waves are just local. The taranga that comes in the ocean, the waves that come in the ocean is very local. Whereas ocean is something which is connected with the whole large mass that is there. The same way, your consciousness is connected with the large mass that is there behind it. What is that large mass? The same consciousness which has become everybody, that's what you are. And the same consciousness which has come from since the beginning of the creation, ever since that unmanifest Brahman becomes the manifest, that consciousness which is there, and you are part of that. You have come from that time where the unconscious, unmanifest becomes manifest. So from that time that you are connected, you can imagine what is the vastness that you are. When do you stop that you are not there? Were you not there when you are right from the birth, on the day of birth? It is not that your journey started, and you are somebody who is there in the mother, in the parents' cells, and from the parent cells before that, their parent cells, it was there. If you go on like that, it goes for till the beginning of the creation itself. So that means to say, the consciousness does not have a beginning or an end, and you are that. It is like the ocean that you are there. That's why he gives this example of manasik shabdatam yate chittasyanga kimagatam taranga jalasantane vaiparityam kimambude. The taranga jalasantane, why he used this particular analysis is that people complain when they sit for meditation, thoughts come like waves, and one wave is gone, one thought is gone, but another thought comes, and then that goes away, third thought comes. So all these things are coming, and people say that I am disturbed by that. So therefore, he gives this example of the waves and saying that whatever may be the waves that come, does it disturb the consciousness that's there behind? It doesn't disturb. So, apsajyohya madani padmani saritambhani sam kani nama bhavantiha sharirani tadatmanaha. This is again the standard example that the Vedanta tries to give us. Aputsar sargohamanani padmani saridambudam. Like the way that the ocean, it stays in the womb of the lake, and it grows from the womb of the lake, and it takes the water, it takes the nourishment from that. Its bed is that, it's the lotus, and the house is that lake, it stays on the lake. So therefore, the lotus Padma is there, Saridambusam, that means to say in that water it is there. Kaninam bhavantiha sharirani tadatmanaha. But in spite of it, the lake and the lotus do not have any connection. The ocean, the lake, the water does not touch the lotus. Lotus is not touched by the water. That means basically that connection is not there. Because that connection is not there, waves come in the water, or so many things happen, and this particular lotus that is there in the water, it also moves along with that. Wind blows, and it also moves along with the wind on the water. And all that happens, but in spite of it, the lotus is lotus. It does not get disturbed. So this is what is the way that he says that what is very important is that recognize that all these things do not touch you, and you be free from that. Like the way that Ratha and the Rathi, that means to say the chariot and the charioteer, they are separate. Like the way Sharira and Shariri, they are separate. That is what is the way the body and also the one who is embodied, and they are separate. So the same way that he tries to give an idea, now he tries to analyze this idea. Na shuddha jadayoreta samvida shicharirayoho etahya jnanas matrasya tasmin nashte chidevasaha. This is what is the caption word this time for the satsang that I have given, and that is all these things, shuddha jadayoretaha samvida shicharirayoho. Nashuddha jadayoretaha. That means to say, all these sukha, dukkha experiences, that means to say happiness, sorrow, all these things that are there, they do not come to the Atman, which is supposed to be pure form. Shuddha chidrupaha samvita chittareyo. It does not belong to that, the inner consciousness which is supposed to be pure, not touched by that. It is like the way that whatever may be the object that comes onto the mirror, it still does not touch the mirror. Etahya jnana matrasya tasmin nashte chidediva. Now what happens is that this does not touch the consciousness inside, or this does not touch the body also outside, because body is jada. Body will not have this sukha dukkha experiences. Bodies, like the way that if you are disconnected from the body, then you do anything with the body, but it does not hurt. You do not feel the pleasure or pain or anything like that. And that's the reason why when they have to do the surgery, they give you the anesthesia. What is anesthesia? Anesthesia is the way that you are disconnected from the body. When you are disconnected from the body does not feel anything. In fact, that you can very clearly see. When somebody is dying in the last moments, he was struggling for breath, he is struggling for activity in the body, and all that will be there. You can see the struggle. But the moment that person leaves this body stays there as if it is completely in a relaxed state. It's completely let go. He does not have any more pain. In fact, that last minute when somebody is struggling before leaving the body, when he leaves the body, people say, though they feel that the sadness about somebody leaving the body, but still sometimes inside they feel, thank God that the whole struggle is ended. That means to say, the struggle that he is feeling is ended, because the struggle is not really to the body. So therefore he says This particular pleasure and pain, they are not in the body. They are not in the body. Body does not undergo that because it is jada. Like the way that your body is as much as any other object that is there outside, like the way that the table is there, chair is there, and that they don't feel any pleasure or pain. There is nothing like that kind of a experience of feelings, that they don't have it. In fact, because that they don't have the experience of feeling, that's why they are called as jada. So our sharir, our body itself is jada. And that's what we say, that in this part of the in this body also, the part where there is no consciousness attached with that, you are not there. And then it doesn't matter to you whether you do anything with that. Like the way that your nails do not have life in that. Then therefore you clip the nails, it doesn't hurt you. The hair is also where you are not there, therefore it doesn't hurt you. Where you are not there, it is nothing but jada. Jada means the neutral kind of a personality. It is like a dead material. So jada, shuddha jada, etaha, samvitaha, chicharirayoho. So for this particular shuddha jada, that means pure body, solid body that is there, gross body that is there, and also pure consciousness. For all those things, then they do not have this idea of what is called as sukha, dukkha, what's called as the sorrow and happiness. They are not there. Etahi jnana matrasya tasmin nashte chidevaha. But then we feel the pain, we feel the pleasure. We have that pain and pleasure because that it is ajnana matrasya. That means to say, we have an ignorance, and that ignorance is the one makes us to identify with the body, and that we become one with that. Therefore, we have the pain. A children level, where there is absolutely the jnana has not yet started, they don't even have that feeling of pain and pleasure also, they are not there. They are come to the body level only when it is absolutely necessary, otherwise that they are not there. They are blissful. They are identified with the consciousness. They are free from that. Saints are also like that. They are free from that. And only when you free yourself from that, recognize that whatever that is there about the jada, that means to the physical body, and I am not touched by that, this jnana is not there, I don't have to be attached with that. That's what is the real freedom. We have such examples where when Jesus was crucified, when he was fixed on the cross, at that point of time he had that pain, he had the suffering, and therefore he complained, saying that, why me? The other people who are being punished, that they are supposed to be criminals, they have done something wrong in the society, and naturally they have to be done. But what wrong have I done? Why they are punishing me along with those people? I don't deserve this punishment. So he was complaining, why me? Why should I be punished about these things for nothing wrong that I have done? But then the next moment, it's a question of whether he has done something wrong or not. Whether the question is not whether they have wrongfully punishing him or not. That's not even the question. The whole turn is totally different. The whole approach is for the totally different thing. That's what Jesus Christ, he turned around himself and said that, oh, he detached himself from the body. The moment he detached from the body, then there is no question of suffering for that. He identified himself with the consciousness, pure consciousness inside, which is not touched by the pleasure and pain. And then he realized that, okay, I don't have to feel pain and pleasure because that's what belongs to ignorance. Once the pleasure or pain are not there, then all that he could say to the people who are fixed on the cross, pray to the God, forgive them, O Lord, they don't know what they are doing. This is what they said, that when Jesus was complaining about that, he was son of Mary. That means to say, he was a physical body, he was identifying with the physical. But the moment that he freed himself from that, it was Son of God. He says that, forgive them, O Lord. So when you become identified with the divinity, all that what you say is they give forgiveness to the people. That's a simple idea. The same thing happened with the Socrates also. We have such example where Socrates was given poison and the body is being affected by the poison. And Socrates is reporting, my hands are benumbed, legs are benumbed. When he was reporting the students who were there with him, they said, Socrates, you have taken poison, you are dying, are you not suffering? Socrates smiles and says that, forgive them, a lot, they don't know what they are doing. He said for them that, look, I've taken the poison. Poison is doing its work, working on the body. To be affected or not to be affected is my freedom, because I am freedom and the freedom is this consciousness. So therefore, I don't have to feel suffering about that. These are actually historical, but then they are so biblical kind of, they so deep stories about it. But then even in front of our eyes that we have seen this kind of thing. And that's when Ramana Maharshi, he had an abscess on his hand. The doctors came and then they wanted to examine, they want to take cases. Maharshi said, why do you want to do all those things? Just leave it alone. It also stays for a while and one day it will go away. Or it will take me away. It doesn't matter. Take this body away. I don't even care for that. But then the disciples could not bear with that because they were feeling bad. They wanted to do something, they were anxious. So therefore, that there was a doctor who said, we have to do the surgery and remove that. Okay, you do the surgery. He was not very rigid. That's another very important idea about the spiritual person, is that he will never have very rigid boundaries. He is very free, flexible. There were several stories in which Ramana Maharshi shows his flexibility. He is not rigid at all. I'll share with you another story after this story about Ramana Maharshi, because such great saints, their life itself is the Margadarshana for us. They are the pathfinder, givers for us. So then they said that we won't like to do the surgery. Then he said, okay, you do the surgery. Then the doctor supposed to be doing the surgery, he said, we have to give the anesthesia for you. What do you mean by anesthesia? He said the anesthesia is something that you don't feel pain there. You are not identified with the body once you give the anesthesia. So that we do any surgery on the body, you will not feel the pain. Ramana Maharshi said, then why do you have to give me an injection for that? Tell me that I should not feel pain. I will not feel pain. They were shocked, but Ramana Maharshi gave his hand to them. Said, come on, you do the surgery. When they were doing surgery, Ramana Maharshi was talking to the people as if it is not on his body, it is somewhere else that's happening. That means to say, not to be identified with the body is so conscious process. It's not something which is unconsciously, subconsciously happens. Consciously could do that. So he could come out of it, and then they did the surgery, fixed the whole thing, and they put the bandage. Then he said, is it over? It's over. So, okay, that's fine. Then they had to do the dressing day after day after day, or maybe once in 2-3 days. So they would come, and then he would give his shoulder to them, and then they would do all that dressing of it. And he would be sitting and talking to the people as if nothing is happening to him. Doctors felt that somehow this Ramana Maharshi seemed to be a thick-skinned fellow. He doesn't even feel the pain. So after 4-5 days, they came and tried to handle the hand. Immediately, oh, it pains, just wait. Tell me that you are doing something so that I can be away from that. It's a conscious process, he shows that. And they waited for a couple of minutes, and then Ramana Maharshi said, now you can do it. So that he is free from that. That means he can identify, he doesn't have to identify, he can free himself from the body. So that's why he is free from the body, withdraws from the body. He doesn't have any rigidities, okay, easy. Ramana Maharshi was like that. It so happened that people who would go to Tiruvannamalai, they would make a round to the whole hillock that was there, and that was supposed to be parikrama. People talked so high about it. And Ramana Maharshi has never gone around that parikrama of that particular hillock, because he would go halfway and then he is in ecstasy, he would not come back. He would just go and come back because he never had any purpose of going around this thing. Hearing to the people that he was, so they could convince him that Ramana Maharshi that tomorrow you should really go around the hillock. He said, fine. But then you walk so slowly and then you walk so leisurely. Therefore, you should start very early in the morning so that you will not be there when it is really very hot. So early morning, 3 o'clock, you have to get up and go. Marshita said, no objection. He said, okay, fine. But then you will fall, you will feel hungry at the breakfast time. Therefore, that some people will be there to serve you breakfast. On the way, we make arrangement. I said, okay, fine. And then previous night, they said, Ramana Maharshi, see, tomorrow you are going, therefore you have to sleep early so that you can get up at 3 o'clock and start on your journey. Eat little more so that in the morning when you get up, you don't feel hungry. So they served him. And then in the morning when he got up, they also said that one small little idli for you, something like that. Have it. Ramana Maharshi says no to anything. So he just smiled. And then on the way also there were so many disciples who were waiting with so many things and Ramana Maharshi could not say no to it. And then by noon, when it was hot, he came back and people asked Ramana Maharshi, why did you go around the hillock? Ramana Maharshi laughed. He said, I did not even go as much as normally I would go because people were there on the way feeding. So I was so heavy I could not go anywhere and then I came back. So easy. He has no identification with the body. Sukha, dukkha, both these things are not there. You give him, feed him, don't feed him. It's all okay for him. So therefore, that is what he says that Najada jadayor etaha samvidas chittas chit sharirayoho etahya jnanam ajnana matrasya tasminaste chidevavaha. So whatever that ajnana, the moment that it goes away, then we are established in our chinmatrata. That means to say we are pure consciousness that is there. Antasangam vinanambuhu kashtapataihi pragruhyate atmanga sangarahito doha dukkhaina dahyate. This is what he gave that example of. Earlier he gave the example of the lotus is not touched by the water, though it is in the water. It did not run away from the water. In fact, if it runs away from the water, that means you are attached with the water. Either attached with the form of water in the form of running behind it, or attached in the form of running away from that. Both these things are not there. You are just there. Water is there. That's all the feeling. There is no internal kind of dependency on that. Antasangam vina. This is what is internally that you have no sangha. That means attachment. Antasangam vina ambuhu kashtapataihi pragruhyate. So inside when there is no question of any attachment, in such a case, kashtapataihi pragruhyate ambuhu. That means to say a stick falls into the water and the water is flowing and the stick falls into the water. And just, look at what happens to the stick. The stick flows along with the water. It just does not create any disturbance to the water, nor the stick gets disturbed by the water. It just picks up the same flow, whatever that is there in the river, in the water, just flows along with water. That's what is there. Nambukashtapataihi pragruhyate atmasangas sangarahito deha dukkhaina dahyate. And the same way, one who had atma asanga sangarahitaha, that means he is not attached with the sangarahitaha, without any attachment with the deha. He is there in the body. He respects the body. He takes care of the body. Everything is there. Only thing is he does not, and he also, the Atma itself, is something which is reflected on the body. The body's chetana, that you see the body's liveliness, it's all because of the Atma that's there behind it, the consciousness that is there behind it. But in spite of the fact that the body reflects the whole of Atma Chetana and all that, in spite of it, Sangarahitaha, it does not have any attachment. dukkha inna deha dukkha inna dahyate. That means to say, such a body, neither such a consciousness is not touched by the dukkha or the suffering. Pleasure and pain do not touch that. Particularly he says dukkha because basically dukkha is the one, pain is the one which really bothers you, which really depletes you, which makes you feel miserable, which makes you to hate the life. So that he says basically, dekha dukkha nadahyate, it doesn't burn you. This consciousness is there, will not be burnt by this. In any case, it will not be burnt, but then you feel that you are attached with that because the simple thing is, attachment with that is the one which makes you to feel that you are suffering. And it is your ignorance that suffering does not belong to you. Deha bhavanaya vatma deha dukkha vashe sthitah tattagren tato mukto bhavatiha vidurbuthaha. So now our consciousness, the way that we are, or that saying consciousness is the way that it's a misnomer. Idea is that we, that's what is Atman. We are the Atman. And then we are with the Deha Bhavana. That means to say that we are with the body feeling. We are the body feeling, and then therefore that we are in the, because that we have the body feeling, therefore that we seem to be under the control of Deha Dukkha, that means suffering of this particular body. Tatyagrena tato muktaha bhavati iti vidurbudha. So therefore, all that what you need to do is to feel that distance, non-attachment with the body, and that is what is the way that you get the freedom. Antasanga vhinatma, this sanga, antaha, that means inner, deep inner attachment that is there, sanga. Antasanga vhinatma dukkhavan antargano yatha patrambo amala daruni shishtanyapi parasparam. Hey Ramachandra, hey Rama, he says that like the way that the water in the water is there, and then leaves are there in the water, and there are so many other dust, this, that, and all those things there. Antavihinaha, that means antasanga vihina. Internally there is no attachment with that. Dukkha vanyangano yatha. None of these things are being affected by where they are, whether they are in the water. And patra ambula daruni shishtanyapi parasparam. The water is there, and also the all those leaves and these things that they are there in the water. So that's all. They just exist. That's all. Like that, it is earlier that we have another example of this kind of a thing that we have taken. He gave the idea that what is the way that we are unattached, asangaha, and not caught up in that, is the way that he explains about the way that the grains of sand in the beach, the sand is particles, they're all together, they're all making that beach, but in spite of it, no particle is attached with another particle, they'll just stay existing. Same way within is also that all these things which are there, an experience of body, experience of mind, experience of all those things that are there, you are not attached by that, you are not touched by that. And this is the way that you become sakshi, an observer. Antasangarhita yanti nirdukhatam param shishtannapi tadaivatma dehendriya manam syalam. Now inside, when there is no sangha, there is no attachment, the feeling of suffering that is there, body, mind, sensory organ, and this mind, all these things, they don't have any the moment that attachment is not there, then the feeling of dukkha, the feeling of suffering will not be there. Yes, body is there, mind is there, and sensory organs are there. Internally there is an atma that is there. Body is functioning as long as the body is supposed to function. Mind functions where the mind has to be functioning. Intellect functions where we need to have the intellect to function. Senses, all our sensory organs, they function. But the moment that they stop functioning, everything stops. And then you are somebody who is there behind it, you're not there. An injury, a thing that is there at these things do not disturb you at all. They're all functioning that they are. Like the way that the sand grains are, they are there together in the beach, but then they are not connected at all. So you also become like that. And then you become a, the consciousness who is there behind is somebody who is like an observer. He is like a Sakshi who is there. Sakshi is somebody who is not involved in all those things. And this has to happen from within. All this, normally what we think about, what people think about Vairagya is about the outside. And outside is very symbolic. Many times we have the symbolic outside Vairagya, but inside we don't have that Vairagya. Inside we are still attached. Whereas what he says is not about the symbolic way, it's more deep inside. We have that beautiful example of Swami Ram Tirtha. Swamiji was there in 1930s, he was there. And then he has taken sannyasa, he gave up, he was married and he was a professor in the Lahore University. And then he gave up that professorship, he took the sannyasa, he became Swami Ram Tirtha. He had a student, and that's what is Puran Singh. And then they both used to travel, they both were all the time together. Puran Singh was not only a student, but he also had that freedom to question Ram Tirtha. So they were in their same village, Lahore, they were there in small little room, and then he was sitting and writing something. He has written the books. Actually, Swami Ram Tirtha has written 24 volumes of the spiritual knowledge, the text that is there. A prolific writer, and he had great ideas. He was a very highly acclaimed saint those days. So probably he was doing some writing work, sitting on in the chair and with a table, and in front of him that small little window was there, and that was open, and the window was looking into the street, and a distance right in front of that window, that the street is there, long distance, and it comes and joins this. Suddenly he got up and then closed the windows, shutters. When he closed the window shutters, that Puran Singh was there sitting down. He just said, Swamiji, why did you shut the windows? I said, why? I said that I want light to come in. You are also writing something, I am also doing some work, and then we need light, and then open the window. No, for just some simple, you are writing something, why did you close that window? He said, there is no reason. Puran Singh was curious. He got up and then opened the window, and then he saw that in the opposite direction, from the opposite way, that his ex-wife was coming. He had actually divorced her, and therefore he has taken sannyasa, and that was all organized, everything was over. Probably she also has taken it very easily, and then she left it alone. And he was a sannyasi, he went around the whole place, but suddenly when he saw she was coming, he closed the door. Then immediately Puran Singh asked Ram Tirtha that, see, you closed the door. I know why, I understand now why you have closed the shutters. He said, why? He said, because your ex-wife is coming. No, she is not my wife, she is not even ex-wife, she is like another lady. Then Puran Singh makes a fun of Swami Ram Tirtha. When so many women are coming and going and all that thing, you never close the window. But then when shutters, when she is coming, you close window shutters. That means to say, still in her heart, she means you something. Your attachment is there. Wow. That subtle point, that immediately Swami Ram Tirtha recognized that. And it is said that afterwards that he relinquished the sannyasatva also. He started wearing the white clothes. Honest to the core. So this is what is the way that Sangha. It is there inside that you should not have attachment. Outside, yes, the symbolic way it is there. But then a lot of people have symbolic way, but inside they don't have that Sangha. Asangatva, non-attachment. Antasamsaktino janto arakturapi kartruta sukadukkavati swapne. All these things are about antaha samsaktito. That means to say internally that you need to have freedom. Like the way that he gives another beautiful example here, saying that one person who is sleeping and nothing is there outside for him, and he is not attached with any activity that's going on outside. So one who is sleeping, he is not attached with any activity outside. And now such a person who does not have any attachment with the world outside, but inside he has a dream, and that dream, he comes across a tiger which is chasing him. He is in the forest and tiger chases him. He knows very well that the tiger is what he created. He is the consciousness, and then he created the tiger. And then the tiger runs behind him, and then he runs away from the tiger for his life. Actually, nothing happens to his life. It's all inside, that's what is happening. So therefore, he says, in the case of dream, like the way that all these violent animal comes and then you are in the forest, you are almost like helpless, and some dacoits are there behind you, they are beating you, they are killing you. Oh, you feel all those kind of things. And therefore, when do you feel it? When do you feel it is when you have attachment inside. Outside that you don't have an attachment, but inside that you have attachment. And the same characters that you have, you created inside, and then you get affected by all those things, and then you just suddenly get up from the sleep. So, even though that he is not doing anything outside, because he has given up everything, but then that kartrutva, the doership is there inside, identifier is there inside, and then the sufferer is there inside. Kartrutva, bhoktrutva, jnatrutva, all these things are intact inside. Therefore, all these things start showing on him, and therefore he is frightened when such kind of a dream is there, wakes up and then sees that there is nothing exists, that he is in the day, and then is in the world outside, that wakeful world, will have a glass of water, relaxes himself, and then again, when he goes back to sleep. But the moment that he is trying to enter into the sleep, he is afraid. Why? Again that dream comes up. And that dream, you know very well that it is you created. There is nothing like any objective reality for the world there. But then in spite of it, you are afraid of it. Small little way that your consciousness had created dream and can attach with you in such a way that you are disturbed. Not only in the dream, actually when you have such an experience in the dream, you see that your hands will be shaking, your heart palpitations will increase, breath will be irregular. That means to say physically that you are affected. The same way this consciousness is the one which created the world outside, you get involved in that. Asamsaktam akarteva kurvadeva manoviduhu nakarma pala bhoktatvam asaktam pratipadyate. So, when the mind asamsakta mana akarteva, that means to say, when you don't have any attachment outside and you still do all those kind of things that is there, kurvadeva manoviduhu, that means to say, once you have that asakta inside and outside, and then when you do the activity inside and when you do the activity outside, even that activity is called as kurvadeva manoviduhu nakarma phala bhoktartvam asaktam pratipadyate. There is no bhoktartva, there is no karma interest in that, asaktaha, and all those things are there. And such a person is called as akartrutvam. That means to say he is not a doer. Because deep inside he does not have an attachment, and then outside he may be still doing an activity, but in spite of doing all that activity, there is no ego that is developed, therefore there is no doer that is there. This is what we also discussed in the Karma Yoga. Very simple way that and in Raja Yoga also it is discussed about that. Patanjali says, convert the doer activity into a non-doer activity. That means to say, an activity without the doer. And what is that activity without the doer? That's why we say one is karma and the other is the kriya. Kriya is where it happens. There is no doer behind it. Whereas karma is there, the doer behind it. Can you make all the activities into a doer-free activities? That means to say, kartrutva, the doer, identifier with that, is something which is removed from that. Asamsakta kurvadeva manoviduhu na karma pala bhoktutvam asaktam pratipadyate. Such a person is the person who is not doing an activity in spite of the fact that outside the things are going on. What happens a lot of times is that even though that they feel that they surrender everything to the God and then they are doing an activity outside, but then still that I'm the doer concept is not dissolved completely. I'm the doer concept is not dissolved. The doer is not dissolved. All that they can say that I'm doing the God's work as his representative. That means to say again, he chose me to do this activity. It is his behest that I'm doing this activity. Again, this I am doing this activity is still there. It may be that God has prompted me to do it. It may not be my choice, but it is his choice. But I am here. Even such a case also that very subtly, you may accept God, you may accept God's activity and all those things, but you still keep that yourself to be the doer behind an activity as a representative from God. That's why it's very difficult to dissolve this doer aspect of it. Kidrusho Bhagavan Sangam Katham Bandhayana Nunam Kascha Mokshaya Katitam Katham Vaishavi Chikitsate. Hey Rama, what is Kidrusho Bhagavan Sangam? Sangam, what is this? How do you understand this? What is this attachment? Katham Bandhaya Vashrunam. What is this attachment and how this attachment happens? Kascha mokshaya katitam katham vaishachikitsate. So, how to remove this and all these things, you tell me about that. How to come out of this? This is what you can come back to this Laghu Yoga, Samsaktihi, the close attachment, and that's where Rama asked us, Kidrusho Bhagavan Sango Nunam Bandhaya Kidrushaha Kidrusho Vapi Mokshaya Katham Chaisha Chikitsayade. Here River Sage, he says, what nature is attachment? What is the nature of attachment? And what sort of it is that causes the bondage for men? And what sort it is causes the liberation? And how is it cured? Vasistha replies, Deha Dehi Vibhagaihi Aparityagena Bhavanat Dehamatretu Vishwasaha Sango Bandhayu Chate. By the sole repudiation of the division between the body and the embodied, the soul, on account of the soul is basically yourself. The embodied, on account of supposition, the conception, the faith in reliance of the mere body is called attachment deserving of bondage. Why this bondage happens is that somehow we are in this body, we are embodied in this body, but in spite of it, we think that we are this body. This house becomes me. And therefore, once that we get attached to this, there is nothing else exists other than this house, other than this body. Then what happens is this body binds us. And 90% of the people are caught up in this particular bondage. 99% of the people are caught up in this bondage. Therefore, they cannot think of anything which is there other than this body. There's also another reason why they feel that this body is them, because the whole energy these days, the whole effort these days, everything is to connect with the objective world outside and being as something which is very important. The whole science, as long as that we are dependent on the intellect, as long as that we have given the whole power of attorney to the intellect, mind and intellect, make this body outside very real, and there is nothing else other this exists. So therefore, देह देह विभागैः अपरित्यागेन भावना देहमात्रे तु विश्वासः संगो बद्धायु उच्यते. This becomes like an attachment. Atmaiva khalvidam sarvam kim grunhami tyajami kim ityasangasthitam viddhihi jivan muktatvam utthitam. All this indeed is the self only. Atmaiva hi khalvidam sarvam. It is the Atman, it is the consciousness which has become everything. It is the consciousness which has become everything is the way that Indian philosophy always talked about it. Atmaiva hi kalvidam sarvam kim grunnami tyajami kim. What is that which I hold? What is that which I leave? Everything has become from the Atman itself. That means to say, wherever it is, whatever it may be, something like that, it is nothing but the same consciousness or same me. And this is something which is essentially the inner experience. It's not just words that it is, but it is from the experientially one should feel, so that what is that one has to accept, that one has to reject. What is that I go by and what is that I reject? Nabhinandati and ityasangastitam viddhihi jivan muktatvam ityatam. That's what is the liberation while living. Now what happens? Everything is nothing but Atman. But then the world that is there has certain norms, rules and regulations, certain order. And we respect that order in the world. And then be in this world. Like the way that fire is also, water is also, everything is nothing but consciousness, Atman, me. But then when I deal with the fire, I deal with the fire as if it is fire. Deal with the water as if it is water. Because that fire does not mean just only that fire, but all its qualities. Brahman, Atman, is something which became fire with all its qualities. Brahman, Atman, is the one which became water with all its qualities. So therefore, I respect the qualities of water, I respect the qualities of fire, as if it is also from the Brahman itself. The same way that everything that is there in the nature also, other human being, they are also from the Brahman. I have no objection about that. I have feeling like that. But at the same time, I respect the way that it has to be taken care of. Their gunas, their ideas, these things, I respect that. And the way I interact with that, with the giving respect to them. Nabhinandati naishkarmyam nakarma svanusajyate susamohaya phalatyagi so samaktas iti smritaha. One who does not rejoice in inactivity, nor is bound by the actions, nabhinandati naishkarmyam, not activity, that he doesn't get attached to that, nakarma svanusajyate, and he is not bound by the actions also, and he is thoroughly, even in his outlook, and he gives up the desire for that. Susamo yah palatyagi, so asamsakta iti smritaha. What is that asamsakta? Is that he does activity, he doesn't do activity, in all those things. There is nothing like pleasure and pain. One has a preference over the other. That's what we have seen the example of Ramana Maharshi. He has no preference over one or the other, yes. But what he has to do it, he has to do it in way susamo yash palatyage. He does an activity without any phala, attachment with the phala, without even looking at the phala. Because the moment that you start looking at the phala, it immediately you are separated, in the sense that you are doing a part of you doing an activity, A part of you is looking at the fruit of an activity. So therefore, phala, and what happens is that we are now doing the activity. Phala does not belong to the present. So therefore, paratyagi. I have no idea, no attachment or no contemplation on the phala at this point of time. So asamsaktaha iti smritaha. That's what the scriptures say, that's what the ideas say, that he is regarded as unattached. He is doing all the activity, phalatyagaha, phalasangatyagaha, and then do the activity. This is what is the way that karma yoga is the way that he is doing an activity. Asamsangena sarvascha cheshta nana vijrumbhitaha chikitsata bhavatyesha shreya sampadayantiti cha. By non-attachment, all actions manifest in various ways becomes cured. Sarveshta cheshtaha nana vijrumbhitaha asangsakte sangena then becomes cured by the abiding influence and produce good. So, sampadayanti che. Shreya sampadayanti che. What a beautiful way he says. A person who does an activity without this asangatva, that means no attachment at all, it is cured in the sense that it is chikitsayam. That means it has been purified. So that what happens is whatever that he does, it is for the good of the humanity, good of the world outside. That's what it manifests. So a real good, shreya, is not something that what you do calculated way. It's not because of some, when we do that kind of good, it's a moralistic way. Yes, moral values are very important in this world. World survives because that moralistic way it is there. Good and bad, right and wrong, all those things are there. But somebody who also does the activity without any sangha, without any attachment involved in that, such a person, whatever he does the activity, it happens by itself a shreyaha. It does only good for that. That's what we say. Somebody who is in that stage, he identifies himself with the consciousness, he identifies himself with the Atmasthiti being there. He can only say Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramaya. He can only feel that world is nothing but one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. All these ideas our rishis have given, they are all come from that deep inner realization that they have that they are the Atman, which is there all pervading everywhere. And other than that, there is nothing else. Because of that reason only, they only wish something good, something nice. What can you imagine? What can you think of a saint like Buddha? Can he injure even a small little ant? No, he can only do good to the ant. Similarly, look at the way that saint like Mahavir, Bahubali, because that his cloth went and stuck to the plant, and when he was trying to draw the cloth out, the plant was getting disturbed. He just threw the cloth there and stood naked. He said, if the cloth is there, then only it gets stuck to the plant and the plant is injured. He didn't want to injure the plant at all. How can you think of somebody like Mahavir can injure somebody? Can somebody? So really somebody who has that kind of a realization within himself that he is an Atmas and that Atman has become everything, consciousness has become everything. He cannot have this idea that if you follow my idea, if you follow my faith, I will spare you, otherwise I will kill you, I will hurt you, I will do all kinds of damage to you, I will loot you. This thought does not come. It cannot exist there. Unfortunately, in the name of such people to be the representatives of the God, violence goes on. We can't do any violence if you are really having that kind of an Bhutani tanantani tarangani tarangavat utpatti si liyante tat samsakti visumbitam. Now he comes to that idea of again that waves. The waves are there again and again, the waves come and all that belong to the ocean. No wave is different from source. The source for no wave is different from the source of the other wave. It's all the same ocean. From that, all these waves are coming. Like that, the people are coming. Their ideas are coming, their various ideas are coming, and everything is coming. That's what is the philosophy that Indian philosophy says, that we're all like these waves. Tarangani tarangavatu. Like the way number of beings repeatedly spring up, vanish as waves in the ocean. Such a thing is displayed on account of close attachment. And is there this happens like to be the waves is identifying because of an attachment. Samsakti dvivida prokta bandhya bandha charagava bandhya sarvagnya mudhanam bandha tattvavidam nija. Attachment is said to be two kinds, Raghava. Dvivida prokta samsakti dvivida prokta. Attachment is said to be two kinds, Raghava, and the useless and the commendable. The barren one is the foolish everywhere, and commendable is the one innate to knowers of the truth reality. So, bandhya sarvagnya mudhanam. See, from outside when you see, everything is looking at the same thing. But then out of it that there are two types of these things. One is that somebody who does an activity in the form of bandha, and that bandha becomes like a bandhana, and it binds them. Their own activity can bind them, and these are what is called as mudhanam. They're stupid people, and then they don't know, they are the foolish, and those people that it binds them. Mudhanam bandha tattvavidam nijaha. Tattvavidam, one who knows the truth, reality, for them it doesn't bind them. They are there in this world like anybody else, but the moment that they know that they have to withdraw from here, they can free from that. One who has that kind of a activity where he is involved in that activity, he looks like that he is very much in this activity, but he knows very well that he is free from that. Such a person can involve in the activity much more strongly than a person who was afraid of bandhana, afraid of attachment, afraid of failure. Attachment means failure or success. So it may succeed or may not succeed, this kind of feeling one who has that. And for him, he very guardedly he gets into the involvement into the world outside. Whereas a person who does not have that fear, no question of that whether success or failure, none of these things, he can involve in this with total freedom. And such a person is involved in this world very easily. Atma tattva babodhena hinaha dehadivastujaha bhuyaha samsara saktirtha drida bandheti kathyate. And bereft of the knowledge of the true nature of the self and caused by objects like the body, that firm and very great attachment to worldly life is declared as barren. However much that you involve in this world, because that you don't have that knowledge that you are free from that, your involvement in this particular thing, it cannot give you barren, means it does not produce you the result of that, this identifying with the self. Atma tattva babodhena satya bhuta viveka jaha. That attachment is indeed declared as commendable, which is born of the discrimination between the truth, reality, and the world, made out of 5 elements. Body is also made out of 5 elements, like the way that the world is there. In fact, in a beautiful way that Taittiriya Upanishad puts it, that he divides himself into the sensory organ and the sensory object that is there. These two connections are there. It's all about the world outside, it's all about the creation. But Atma is something which is behind all those things. So, Brahmadhya Lokapalascha Bandhasakti Sutaha Bhakti Yutaha Smritaha. The Brahman, the creator, and others, and the guardians of the world are regarded as endowed with attachment, which is commendable. Now the question of how the Brahman functions, how all these forces they function, and how these great sages function, and the great rishis function. They all function this way, knowing fully well that this is like something like a leela. It is there outside going on, it has these ups and downs, but they are sakshi, they are only the witness behind it. And these are the people who are doing this work. Bandha Saktiyutaha Smritaha Lokapalascha. So these are all the people who are doing this, managing this world with that kind of a freedom within you. So the idea is that, hey Rama, you also have to involve into the world outside, work with the world outside, not with an attachment, but with the sense of that you are the consciousness, you are free from that, and then you establish the truth, you establish the dharma in this world. That's how you have come. This is the direction that Rama, Vasistha is giving Rama. As I always say, that the teachings of Krishna to Arjuna makes him to proactive into the dharma, and that's why after the war he gets into the fight of war. Whereas the Rama also, he was withdrawn from the activity, and then the whole teaching of Vasistha has made him to be proactive to the next wonderful work that is going to come. And that's what he says. Kausalya suprajaram apurva sandhya pravartate uttishthana rachardula kartavyam daivamanikam. Daivamanikam kartavyam. That means to say, to establishing dharma, that you are supposed to embark on the world, and that's what you are supposed to do it. And these teachings will help him to do that. Go ahead and do all these activities the way that you are involved in the world, but at the same time, don't get attached with that. What a wonderful message that Vasistha gives to Rama. We'll continue next week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.